to another of Arthur's Engage reviews. Again, we got a locomotive. This is number 4, and as you can see from the box, we're going to review the Ivatt Class 2M2 260 6440 in BR black with the early emblem, as offered by Graham Farish. But before we do that, this isn't the first time that this locomotive class has been modelled, and underneath, let's have a look first at the Hornby Minitrix version from the 1970s 1980s. This one in particular, still in its original box. Hamblins charged the princely sum of £31.98 for this model. That was expensive in its day. So what did you get? Well, you got the usual very efficient German type paperwork with exploding diagram, quality control from the factory, no less. And the parts that you would need, etc. Minitrix always did a very decent exploded sort of picture of what you are actually getting, which I always thought was rather good. Anyway, that's the historical paperwork from Minitrix, and as you can see, Hornby put their name to it. Right, let's have a look in the box. Here's the locomotive itself. The only change in this one has been a renumbering to 46445, which was a Coventry engine. No bias there, he said. Looking underneath, we have all the drivers are driven. There are traction tyres. There were pickups from all the drivers and also from the tender. And if you've seen a Minitrix locomotive upside down before, an Engage one, this sort of setup will look very familiar. Lots of play, stout valve gear, and for its day, not a bad model. Unfortunately, there was one major drawback with these from a viewing point of view, and that is that to get that big free running motor in, they had to model this side flat, and it shows, and it's obviously the same on the other side. Now, performance wise, these models were very disappointing. Words skin and rice pudding come to mind. Now, if you've ever owned a Minitrix Britannia or a Minitrix 9F, you would know that those Engage models were superb pullers and in general great operators, and yes, they would run over points, dead frog points, and do the business. They were very good models. Again, you've got this one, didn't happen. Yes, it will run over the points because the pickups on these locomotives, and still this locomotive even today, will run light engine very well through complex sets of dead frog points of the minimum radius. It will do that, no problem at all, forwards and backwards. Unfortunately, it won't haul anything with it. So that's the history side of things. Now let's have a look what Messrs Graham Farish have on offer for us. The box itself consists of the usual cardboard sleeve, a very stout plastic box containing an inner the little plastic cloth of the locomotive, and of course the paperwork. So that's all very standard for Bachmann. There is the maintenance and care, which is also, of course, the warranty documentation. And then we get down to the second piece of paper showing the excellent exploded diagram, around to the bit that talks about running in, lubrication, minimum curves, etc. Now there's a very good piece here that says location of add-on parts, and it's showing front footsteps, vac pipe on the buffer beam, and the piston exhaust rods. Very good indeed, and wouldn't it be wonderful if the accessory pack actually contained those items, which of course it doesn't. What it contains is the front footsteps, and then we have 4 little brackety type items which look like they shouldn't be attached to the 2 pistons of the locomotive, but should go underneath somewhere. I suggest that if you want to add those, you need detailed photographs of an actual locomotive. Additionally, we have items 2 cab doors, which are optional to put on, and the internal cab roof. And to explain that, I suppose we can go to the locomotive model itself. There she blows, and you can see that it's got a tender cab, a normal cab roof, and then we have this item that sits in between them. Whether you can add that to the model and it will still go round curves, I suspect is up to you and how far you want to take it. Anyway, so there is a question about the add-on bits. Let's have a look at the loco now, and we'll do the there we go. So, somewhat similar to the mini tricks. Yes, all the drivers are driven, although you can't see because of this blanking plate. There are traction tyres here, there are pickups all the way along here, and if you look at this beautiful tender, we have pickups there as well. The model itself, looking at the engine, the boiler and the firebox sides in this have been fully modelled. Beautiful valve gear. Some say it's a bit thick. Well, of course it needs to have some sort of strength, and I don't think that any additional thickness deters too much from this model. On the front, yes, that vac pipe has already been modelled, and it's got a face that looks very similar to the original. Shed plate, by the way, that little round thing there visible is from Keithley, I'm told. So this is a Keithley engine, unless you wish, like me, to renumber it at some stage. So moving along to the tender. And we look at the back of the tender, something becomes immediately apparent in that the windows at the back here haven't been modelled with any glass in. Additionally, on the original they had bars across as well, so that hasn't been modelled, and there were some prominent holes in the back bulkhead here, again, that haven't been modelled. One of the other things that you'll notice is that the coal doesn't come out. It has been modelled solidly into the rest of the tender. So then, what do you think's happened here? Well, I think that Farish have missed a bit. I don't think they've actually modelled this back bulkhead at all and left it as a plain thing. And when you consider the detail on the back of the tender, where you've got these plates, this wonderful ladder, the pipes, everything, and of course this wonderful, absolutely wonderful handrails, modelled very, very clearly and very close to the real thing. This tender as a model, ignoring the locomotive, this tender as a model in its own right is somewhat superb. It's even got spoke wheels. It's gorgeous until you come to this back bulkhead. Something amiss here, I think. Anyway, if you're the type of modeller that wants to add to your models and personalise them, here's your opportunity, I would say. I mean, some would say, well, this is such a well detailed and up-to-date model that it doesn't need anything else. Well, I would say you've got the opportunity here. Let's take the tender off. It just comes, it's a pull fit. There's the DCC bit for those of an electronic nature, and we're left with something that is open to us to be super detailed and modelled. If you're going to mess about with this, I would chisel out the coal, put in a new filler there, and add some real coal in there, as well as all the other modifications that you might want to make. So, coming back to the front end of the loco, and there's not much wrong with that. It has the looks. It is up to the very highest standards that are being produced out of China nowadays. There is no doubt. And as a model itself, it has captured the looks of the locomotive, and there's plenty of options we have here, because Farish have modelled this in three variants. We've got a black and line LMS version 6404, and we have the later Great Western built variety inline green. So you have all of the varieties, and indeed, of course, these locomotives were copied into the BR standard era, and in the 78 XXX class of locomotive. So you've got an opportunity here with a little bit of minor reprofiling the cab to have another class of locomotive indeed. If you have, of course, a mini trip, you might care to start with that one. So here we have a very detailed model in use in a lot of areas of the country, having been built in three different locomotive shops and then copied by British Railways. It's a 2MT. What does MT mean? Well, 2MT means mixed traffic, and Class 2 means that it's got very wide route availability. I mean, this loco comes in under, the original comes in under 50 tonnes, so it could be used almost anywhere in the UK. And they weren't terribly powerful. as that's not what they were used for. So what was the use? Well, the use is all the light pickup freights, local passenger, particularly in the Manchester area, I believe, they were used. So this is the equivalent of your 2-car or 3-car diesel multiple unit, as well as piloting duties, shunting. Again, it really is a small tank locomotive with a tender on the back of it. Anyway, let's go and have a look at it perform without any further ado. So here we go with the usual load, 7 Lima old-fashioned carriages, and open up the controller and away she goes. There's the controller, sitting just over 30, just over a third, and we have a beautiful example already of controlled slow running. We'll up it to train spot speed, only a slight increase in control. So comparing this to the Minitrix offering, we can see already that this machine has got far more capability. And it's to be wondered how they've managed that, because this model is actually lighter than the Minitrix version. The Minitrix weighs in at 52 grams and this weighs in at just 43 grams. And that's an interesting weight, because that's 3 grams heavier than the Ginty tank locomotive that I reviewed in review number 1. So if we were to take the tender off this model, then the locomotive part of it with the engine, which is in the boiler there, would actually be lighter than the Ginty. It possibly makes you wonder how this model will fare later on when it's worn and dirty, but we'll just bring it to a halt. There we go, and away she goes again. So, with just half an hour running, this particular model has got superb haulage, superb controllability, and pretty wonderful slow speed. So then, before we get round to having a look at these the stills and the numbering, does that make the Minitrix version redundant? No, because with that free running motor there's still the possibility of double heading. Right, now let's do some scoring then. Appearance, 90 out of 100. The picky things obviously are that back bulkhead to the otherwise superb remodelled tender, and width of the valve gear, well, I don't know, it's not upsetting me. Performance, 90 out of 100. This is a very, very capable engine, considering its weight. Cost, well, the RRP of this locomotive is over £100, in fact significantly over. And spares, will they be available in years to come? So I think it's 80 out of 100 for this. And then bonus marks, yes, I think a few bonus marks here, to 5 I think for the rest of the tender, and the spoke wheels, particularly the tender handrails have been produced, I think, superbly. So that gives a total of 87.5 out of 100. So yes, Farish, you could do slightly better, but not by much. And there is opportunity here in this model for us to renumber and add our own bits to it, as well as making it a completely different class, if you want. And well, the other thing that we haven't even considered is the scratch models. I mean, here you have a 260. So that's review number 4 finished with. What can I tempt you with number 5? Well, I think again it's back to Union Mills, and we'll do a Union Mills locomotive for you in number 5, and I fancy it'll be one of the 060s, and there'll be very good reasons for that. And really, I'm preempting the Farish 4F 060 coming out, but let's see what we make of that.